The Seattle Sounders crash out in the League Cup tournament. They crash out because they lose 4-2 to Monterey, the second loss in the group stage. And 4-2 loss. They were up 2-0. And then, again, as I said, they lose 4-2. To my right, Stephen Hagan. To my left, John Marshall. And then Russell Brown. Russell, I'm going to start with you. What are the emotions here after you're up 2-0?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one to swallow, but I think it's also what we've come to expect this season. I think that's the mood around here. It's a great start. You're up 2-0, and everything's going well, but how quickly things change. And then when they change, it's just downhill. It's a slope. So I think, in a way, it's kind of funny that we got brought in. We bought into, oh, yeah, they turned it around just for it to come all crashing down.
John?
I think there's some pride to take in coming out and getting those 2 goals quick out of the gate against a team that's, I would have to say, in my opinion, is a superior team than the Seattle Sounders. Club Monterey is maybe the best team in Mexico, and they really came out and punched them in the face, got those 2 goals quick. But struggled to really, once the game settled in, get that kind of control back. And from there on, Monterey really took over the game and had much more control, more shots on target, and ended up getting the four goals to win the game.
Yeah, Steven, what did you see after you go up 2-0, like we talked about, like everybody's talked about, you punched them? What happened then?
The game started in a really frenetic, high-tempo fashion. Even after the first goal, Monterey had a chance directly after kickoff, and then minutes later, Seattle scoring again. The game entered a bit of a lull after that. And, when you expend so much energy at the start, and then all of a sudden you have 70 minutes of the game, 75 minutes of the game, where you need to play really, really sharply against a very, very good side, it's hard to stay switched on like that when you've expended so much already.
No, you guys are giving them a pass. Today, I think the Sounders, mentally, this is who they are, who they have been. You're supposed to play that.
That's what was said. They are who we thought they were.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the reason I'm taking this tone is I'm disappointed in terms of, look, I love the Sounders, but I'm disappointed in the setting was perfect. You got your 2 there. It was a festive atmosphere. And then I think you let off. You let them come into the game. That's one take. Yeah, what do you got?
Here's what I'd say, man, is that the Seattle Sounders we've seen this year, for them to be able to sustain that for 5 minutes against Monterey, that's about the max. That's about the max that you're going to do that against that kind of team. And at the end, you can attack it from a million different angles. The fact is, the Sounders aren't as good as Monterey this year. They're not as good as the top clubs on this continent right now. And they played one of them tonight.
Are they? Go ahead, Russell.
Well, I think you and I talked about it upstairs. And I don't want to say they were lucky to be up, but if it wasn't for a penalty within seconds of kickoff, they may not have a lead. If you take that stretch away, Monterey dominated the game in most aspects. So I'm not saying you were given a goal. Nico had to strike that perfectly. It was a beautiful goal, but I'm just saying the Sounders, as has been said throughout this panel, aren't as good. So I think that's why I go back to my original point. It was a little funny that, the packed crowd, a beautiful night, a beautiful sunny day, just for them to get the hopes up, just for it to deflate. I think that's who the Sounders are in 2023.
Okay, and then John, you can add in, but I mean, I don't want to beat this, keep going over this point, because Brian Spencer said the same thing, when I asked him the same question, right? He said, this is who we are. So this is who they are. Are we disappointed that they didn't play up to their potential, or this is just...
It's too bad. I'm not that disappointed, because going into this match, I'm more disappointed in the RSL 3-0 that put them in the position to need 3 goals tonight against Monterey than I am disappointed in their losing tonight. I think losing tonight was not necessarily always in the cards, but always a possibility. It was always something that when you're looking at this game on the schedule, you wanted to have that RSL win in hand so that this game didn't matter as much, so that you could afford to lose. And they weren't good enough at RSL. They weren't good enough for the majority of this match tonight.
Yeah, I think that's the point, right? They're just not good enough.
Well, and they played well for 5 minutes in this tournament. But can I give you a couple of stats about the historical perspective here, Moz?
So glad to have you back.
So first off, interestingly enough, this isn't the first time the Sounders have blown a 2-goal lead against Monterey. They did it in 2010, in September of 2010 in the Champions League, where they took a 2-0 lead on the road, then gave up 3. I think that longtime Sounders fans will relate this match to playoff exits in 2011 and 2012 against RSL and LA Galaxy respectively, where the club faced second legs at home where they needed 3-goal wins in order to advance. Interestingly enough, in both of those games, Seattle also led 2-0. Took a lot longer in both of those, but on all 3 occasions where Seattle needed, it's only happened 3 times, Seattle needs to win a home game by 3 or more goals to keep going in a tournament. They get 2 and then they give one up, or they don't get one of their own at least, or they don't get a third of their own at least. So
are you saying that's okay? So Seattle should never need to score. No, really. I mean, I think you have a point. Let's go from the tactical perspective. But that's a great way to go at it. So Seattle should never have to score 3 goals, and their record when they need to score 3 goals in the second leg is not very good. What's the pattern there?
I would say nobody's very good when you have to be set up to score 3 anywhere, home, away.
Exactly.
But I think they just need to set themselves up better. If you lose 1-0 on the road, it's a little bit there's just different situations, and as Steven said, you got to set yourself up in that first, the first group stage matches to make sure that in front of a packed crowd that wants to see you win, that you at least have a chance at it. I mean, winning by 3 goals was going to be a long shot today, and again, those 2 quick goals gave the crowd hope just for it to be deflated.
John, it goes to your point about, so then what I was trying to get to, so then that the inability to do well in that first game. Like you talked about, that's where I was going, the Real Salt Lake. Why aren't you coming out and playing that game, giving me that 5 minutes in that first game to go up 2-0?
That's a good question. I think that's something that Schmetzer needs to ask of his players, and we need to see in these next weeks off who comes out of this break with that drive, that desire, that hunger to win that has been missing for a long stretches of time in the last couple of months for the Sounders players. That needs to come back and return to this way. I also think, and I'm not the only person who's used it, Stephen, the core is stale. This is a term you like to use to describe it, where Ladero, Rui Diaz, Morris, Christian not playing today, and João Paulo, those center core guys are not gelling the way that they did in 2016, 2022 Champions League, 2020, 2021 seasons as well. I mean, that unit was so cohesive, so well in time with each other, and they just look steps off right now.
Coaching or a player issue, given the core?
I think after a while, you have to look at the manager, after a while, but at the same time, I mean, you see it out on the field, we talked about it up in the press box, they're just sitting there arguing with each other. They're sitting there, they don't, where it seemed like when they were winning, as you pointed out, it was, more gelled. There was, well-oiled machine, and now it's like, you see a lot of this, you see a lot of, where were you at? Where it used to be like, I know I'm connected with the other players on the field, where they're going to be, when they're going to have my back, and it's just not like that anymore. So, a little bit of both.
Yeah, I'm with you, Russ. Yeah. I think it's both. I think, Schmetz hasn't made all of the correct decisions. He still doesn't know what his best 11 is at the start of August. That's a huge problem and not something to be proud of. And that said, the players haven't done particularly well, right? You asked about the RSL game, it was hot, and then it was another game where they just didn't play up to their potential. And I think if you ask people what is wrong with this team, they're not going to tell you that it's fundamentally built wrong or this or that. It's that a lot of weeks you have guys who aren't playing up to their potential consistently.
All right, let's go. As we wrap up here, let's dig into the weeds. If you're going to make, because I think you lumped up everybody there. Let's unpack that. Each of us can say, well, if you are now the coach and get ready for, you got 10 days or whatever it is, a couple of weeks. Either way, you got 10 games left. What changes would you make in the core or wherever it is you want to make? And we can go all the way around.
Yeah, I'm not going to go exactly tactically, but you got to get the back line going again. The season started, the offense wasn't necessarily, ablaze, but that back line was getting shutouts at home. They were making sure they're keeping clean sheets and all that. I think you need the defense to step up again to hold on until the offense finds its groove again. So I would start in the back line.
Okay. In maybe a bit more radical view, I think Nico Ladero needs to come off the bench. I think Albert Rusnak needs to be given the keys to this offense. Play him in the 10 spot. I think that alone can make a big difference, and Rusnak is playing in a position where he is more comfortable, a position he's more of a natural at instead of the defensive midfielder. You put Obed there instead, who's a young up-and-coming player in this team that could, be looking at a future abroad, given his talents. I think that would be a really big change. Schmetzer noted that he had spoken with Ladero about moving the captaincy to Steph Fry, who was out today with dislocated finger, had to get surgery for. So Joao Paulo was the captain today. So interesting that they're moving on from Nico as captain currently to try and make changes. I think moving on from him in the starting 11, moving him to the bench and having him be a super sub would be another big change.
It's already happening, to your point. I think you answered your own thing, but go ahead.
I guess. I'm sorry, please go.
No, that was it. I'll finish.
I guess the truth of it is that I think that the problem with them right now is their mentality, and I don't really see them fixing it before the end of the year.
You know what? Yes, I agree with all three of you. I think there's some tactical stuff there, and Spencer talked about this. I think that, Russell, I disagree a little bit. It's not the back line. They're not coming back to pinch in to help with the back line. And so it's leading the gaps in there. I do think Ladero should be. Look, we're going to be honest. I mean, there's been frustration with the way Ladero is going from left to right, and kind of leaving a gap in terms of that. Smetzer was very, very, I think, direct today. He said, look, when we're in transition, when we came back, not all 11 were behind the ball. And so when your tactic is to absorb pressure a little bit, then counterattack, it doesn't work if maybe 9 or 8 players are behind the ball, right? And I think that's really fundamentally what's been the issue. So it's tactically, and I think I would switch that in terms of Ladero. And in terms of, that's really what I think has to happen. And so what do you need for the last 10 games before we wrap up here? What do you need to see? I know we're looking crystal ball, but hey, it's post-game on the pitch.
You guys go for it.
Let me just give you a little oddity then, okay? Let me give you my takeaway from
Imagine that.
So, as we mentioned, the Sounders have only trailed at home, or needed to score 3 times in a home game to advance from a tournament 3 times now, this being the 3rd. We have examples of them going up 2-0 in all 3 of those games. What can we take away from it? Those games were 12 years apart, right? So, team's totally different, coach is different, blah, blah, blah. Okay, what can you take from it? When the Sounders get behind and need to advance, need to do something to advance, and have a home game to do it, A, they are going to come out with energy, right? They're going to come out and score a couple times, and B, if they don't need 3, it's in the cards that it's doable, right? I mean, it's almost not, if you don't put yourself in a 3-0 hole, it's not beyond you in this stadium for this club, is the takeaway I have.
That's great from a statistical perspective, and that's why you're beautiful, and that's why you're great. That's what we balance off. I get the 3, and I think that's numerology. I think that's fantastic. No, I'm not discounting that, but I do think there's something about it that switches in terms of them like, well, if we need this, we can go ahead and do it. I really think that starting 11 he had there is what I would take, and I would run with that team right there. And so back to answer my own question, out of those 10, I think you need to win 6 or 7 of those. I think you need to kind of get in some kind of a rhythm. You need to win 3 in a row, and hopefully on the back end. You don't want to win 3 in a row to start. So now, you win game 10, 9, and 8, and then you stumble the other one. So that's what I think has to happen. Mm-hmm. And that's my take.
What's going to change first, the vibe or the results?
I think you have to change the vibe. I think you go 10. I think right now everybody go. Fry, you go to Bainbridge Island. Morris, you go to Mercer Island. Go wherever you go. Rest. Get away from this. We're Seattle fans. We've seen this, right? Go. Get away from this. Come back. And this is how we're going to play it. And here how we're going to go. We just saw Jordan Morris, right? He also said, look, it's been a long season. This is, to be honest with you, this is kind of what they needed. They needed this break, right? They needed the break because they were really just on a death march.
Yeah.
You disagree?
Okay,
fair enough.
You're telling, what I hear and what I hear in my ear is the couple that's like, let's take a break and see if we can heal. Let's get back together and see if that fixes everything. I think this is the beginning of that relationship maybe needs to start splintering up. Not you go here, but maybe you go to this club, you go to that club. What I hear from you is, again, it's a toxic relationship right now. We used to be so great, everybody thought we were the best couple in the league, and all of a sudden our problems are becoming more apparent, and now you want us to go, let's go take a break. Don't see other people, but, just take some time to yourself. Go do that. Go to Vegas for a little bit. I don't think that's going to fix it.
Time out. That is not what I said.
That's what I heard.
No, okay, fair enough.
I heard, let's take a split. Let's take a break.
No, that's not.
Let's go.
No, you went with the couples. Fair enough.
I'm just saying.
Okay, I'll use the couple analogy, okay? Fair enough.
Yeah.
It's more like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go to my parents. You're going to go to your parents for a couple days. No, it's a little different from the Vegas and the club and see other people.
Okay.
No, that's totally
different. Someone
different.
goes to the parents, someone goes to Vegas.
Well, if you go to Vegas, then obviously
who gets the dog? You just split hairs right now.
No, not at all. No,
Okay.
I think there's a difference between recharge, find out who I am, find out my roots, find out why I'm in this game, as opposed to trying to go somewhere and find some ism to cover up something that's broken. It's really different.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, yeah.
I think they've been trying to find their identity since they won Champions League. What they want to do next, what they want to be next. I don't think they've found it, and I sure as heck don't think they're going to find it the next 3 weeks, to be honest.
Okay, we'll see.
But I think you're right. That's what they have to do.
That's what you have to do. I don't know. I mean, I gave what I hope will, but I don't know. But that's all you can do from we all been around sports. That's what you do, right? It's like when you're losing in the NFL, right? And you have that, you play on a Sunday and a Thursday. And you kind of get the bye week, right? The coaches say, okay, for the next 2 days, go somewhere, find yourself, play with the babies, whatever, boom, and then let's come back. You hope there's a recharge there. And that's this Vegas? See other people?
That was for Leagues Cup 2 years ago.
Nice.
The one thing is that this isn't the first time we've sat in the middle of the Sounders season and said things are dire. 2016, Ziggy Schmidt was fired from the club after just a really
games, but it was middle of July.
19 games. Yeah.
After some just poor performances, a team that felt stale, felt like it was running out of steam. Now, granted, you had a signing in Nico Ladero who made a big difference there as well. This is a team that can come out of low spots in the season to the highest of highs. I think there is a lot more work to do to get to that highest of high this year than there is in the 2016 team, for example. You're not going to get the reinforcements in the likes of a transfer this midseason. You'll be lucky to get one in the wintertime if things go well. They have the pieces that can put together a run into the playoffs. They need to figure out how to play together as a team, as a cohesive core again. And I think that's going to be the best way to get their troubles right.
I thought we were done, but let's keep going, because Russell, you actually brought up something I think that's worth kind of. Do they need to make a change here? I mean, is this a toxic relationship?
Oh, you shut that down. You
No.
said that was crazy.
No. I think you went too far. But let me put it this way. Let me ask this: is this a divided locker room, or is it a locker room in transition?
I think transition. I don't think they're divided. There's still brothers in there. There's still family in there. It's not like they're in there and we're seeing them give each other cold shoulder. I don't think it's anything like that. I'm just saying everything runs its course, and I'm not saying this is the end. I'm not doom and gloom. I'm just saying, if you come out of this break and you have a poor performance in Atlanta, then what? When does it become, if the break didn't work, then what? If you got your time alone and it doesn't work, then what? I think you start to see maybe the cracks. You need to maybe just take down the foundation rather than just keep plastering it with Band-Aids and start fixing it that way. I think eventually you got to find the foundation.
I think you cleaned it up a bit, but I actually didn't think your point was, we might have messed around with the different kind of examples, but I think you bring up a valid question in terms of that. I mean, I think it's a divided locker room when you lose 4-2 and you're up 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, John's mentioning what other this crisis feels like, and you can mention 2016, but frankly, last year, 2022 is the crisis it feels like. This is falling off of the rails, and there's nothing that we can look to that's going to bring it back. Not a new coach, not a new signing, maybe the break, right? Maybe a 3-week break.
You hope,
but in terms of the things that kick-started you in your past crises where things worked out and it became a part of your club lore. You don't have any of those things coming. This is like 22, where you crashed out of the making the playoffs after you won Champions League.
Yeah, fair enough. So, all right, well done, fellas. Yeah, I mean, we're just gonna have to wait and see. You know what I mean? I really do. This is what athletics is, right? Overcoming adversity, and we're just gonna have to wait and see there. And so, man, Stephen Hagan from New York, you know, right? Greenwich Village. He's not from Queens. He's not from Staten Island. And
Please, Maz, just the village.
Oh, excuse me, I'm just a Seattleite. I don't know. All right, and Russell, thank you always for coming on, and John Marshall. You know, when they turn off the lights, it's time to go. So, gentlemen, thank you, and thanks everybody for watching and listening to Post Game on the Pitch.